kids, it's time to sit because Battleground Casual is on. Here's Aaron or Matt.
Perfect. I did that in the episode we pre-recorded as well. That's twice in a row I've done that. That's awesome. Oh, what's up, people? There's no big fancy intro because technically we did do that. So I'm just gonna bring in the panel that we have because we have some great people with us here. So this is kind of impromptu. There is an episode 1 of the return of this show that we did. But basically what happened was while I was in the middle of editing it, because an unfortunate mishap while recording meant that we had to do it in 2 videos, the software crashed while finalizing the download of the video, and I was at work. So it wasn't ready in time. So I just kind of thought, you know what? Since nothing went up this weekend, aside from Papa's game night last night, which if you guys participated, I hope you enjoyed. But yeah, since nothing went up aside from that this weekend, because the system crashing also meant that the download of the rundown episode that was supposed to go up today also didn't finish because it happened while I was at work. I'm just going to upload those midweek. I'm going to put them out there anyways. I'm not going to hold them off. But I just kind of thought, you know what? Let's see if anyone's free. Let's hop on and let's talk some movies. So joining me, first off, I have Madi. What's up, man?
I'm doing good, man. Glad to be. Are you still here, or are you just messing with the settings? Who knows? No, glad to be on camera for the first time in I don't even know how long anymore. But it'll be fun. We're just gonna talk shit. I haven't seen most of the movies we're gonna talk about. I don't think anyone else here has either. It'll be a good time.
And we got Jacob. What's up, man?
Oh, not much going on. Yeah, I also have not seen a lot of the movies in the main categories that we're going to talk about. I mean, I think animated, I think I've seen it all, but yeah, no, I base my predictions off what has happened, not what I have seen on screen. So, and it usually works out more often than not for me. I usually predict more right than I do wrong. So if it ain't broke, don't fix it.
Exactly.
And Tato, what's up, man?
If 4:30 movie doesn't win Best Picture, I'm gonna fucking riot.
I would start getting those tiki torches ready.
Get ready for a riot.
Actually, Tato, you shouldn't carry a tiki torch for other reasons, I think.
Sorry, yeah, my bad. I forgot about the Tato lore.
Yeah, sorry. It's been a while since I've been on, but even I remember that lore. Come on.
Yeah. Let's never forget.
New owner of Battlegrounds now, by the way, ladies and gentlemen.
Let's do that. Let's do that while we're on air. Mr. Jake Tato, the new head of Movie Battleground. Jake, anything you would like to say on that front before we get started on the actual topic?
Yes, hi, hello. It is Tato here, your friendly Battleground steward of the league. Definitely excited to get stuff going. I'm gonna finish off the tournament, then we're gonna get some fun new stuff going. Stuff should start happening around February territory.
Yes, sir. Actually, I have an update on something you had asked me on that we'll talk about off air. I just thought about it while you said it. So, but yeah, no, we're definitely getting some stuff going here, and of course, now that Tato's taken over Battleground, it frees me up to do other things I enjoy that take much, much less planning. So it means stuff like this can come back. It means doing the show that I have now officially, after a year of recording episodes, I finally settled on the title, The Rundown, because I think it sounds cool, and it's not a show that JPO also picked the same name of. Shout out to you, buddy. But I can do other stuff that I enjoy, and I enjoy talking movies with people. I spent 6.5 years of my life making people debate movies. I like talking movies. I mean, that was the whole intent of when we titled the show Battleground Casual. It's like, it's Battleground. We're still discussing movies, but casually. We're not fighting about it. We're talking. That said, if you've ever gone on Reddit, no one fights more in the movie community than people who like the Oscars. Seriously, it is a cesspool. Don't go near it. It's awful. But we do like the Oscars. I enjoy it, mostly because compared to others, I live in a place where I get access to a lot of these movies easily. So I like the fact that the Academy Awards can bring attention to smaller films, even if they don't wind up getting nominated. Like, for example, as someone who's Irish, the fact that more people than I could have ever guessed know Kneecap simply because it has been nominated for foreign film awards at other shows and is very much in the mix of being nominated for the Academy Awards for foreign film. That's dope. That a movie like that could have just been this random Irish film that was released for 1 week and then disappeared gets that chance to get more eyes on it and have people come back around. And similarly, I feel like the Academy Awards, like if we're talking about impact, I feel like it also impacts films and creates discussion around movies that are really good, but just seem on the outside of the competition. Like the first one that comes to mind for me, and I don't know if any of you guys have seen this movie, but a movie called Dee Dee that came out sometime in the middle of this year, where like I heard it was good when it came out, but it kind of came and went because it's a small film. But the people who saw it really, really loved it, and it did receive some nominations in certain critic circles. So the fact that award season is happening, it just leads to more discussion on good films and not just necessarily like Academy films. So I thought, just for fun, before we get into the actual nominee guessing, are there any films that you guys can think of that you saw this year that, like, you know, they're not going to be awards films, but it's worth mentioning a name? I don't know if anyone has like a movie offhand they can think of that, like, I really enjoyed that, but it's not going to get awards consideration for one
I'll
reason.
throw one that's not the 4:30 movie, because
Sure.
obviously we all know what that is about. But in the same vein, Incoming was an absolutely delightful movie that I saw this year. Coming of age tale, very Richard Linklater-esque, of that vein. I thought it was a really good one. Definitely not gonna see any. I don't think it'll see any awards nods at all, but I thought it was a really enjoyable film.
I think the only one I can think of saw.
Okay, I had heard of this film. Okay, cool. It took me a sec.
Yeah, the only one I can think of that probably won't get nominated for anything is a movie called Die Alone. It was the only reason I saw it was because it was filmed like a couple blocks away from where I'm living, and I know the guy who was the best boy on the film because his dad was working on it. He's like, yeah, you want to work on this movie? It's Frank Grillo and Carrie-Anne Moss in like minor roles in this film. It's a really interesting like horror love story in a way. Not a typical Oscar movie. Really enjoyable. Kind of subverts a lot of the typical tropes that I'm used to. I would love to see it get nominated for like best makeup and best not costume design, but like practical effects sort of thing that they do on some of the.
That would fall under visual effects, yeah.
Yeah, visual effects in that sense, but you know, I think maybe like 40 people saw that movie. It's not a great movie by any chance, but I thought the visual stuff that they did in it was really well done, and it is just a good movie. If you do find it somewhere, I don't even know if it's streaming anywhere, but give it a watch. It's like an hour and a half. It's not bad.
Jacob, any you can think of?
Yeah, I think one that I think it had some buzz before it was released, and then I think it kind of died down. I think Nicholas Hoult might have an outside chance in Best Actor, but I think that's like a you're really shooting the butt. Juror number 2. Was fantastic. I thought it was really good. I think the screenplay, the Clint Eastwood's directing. I wish it was still being considered for those, but I think all the buzz has unfortunately died down for it. But I still think it's worth mentioning.
Yeah, absolutely. Actually, in the context of conversation, that will come up a bit later. There is something that's worth bringing up about that. So with that said, though, do we have any more thoughts, or do you guys want to just go ahead and jump into it?
Let's do it.
All right. So we're only going to be covering the major nominations because, again, like once we get into the nitty gritty of like costuming, makeup, visual effects, like at that point you have to have seen the film. And I think today is actually an interesting exercise in making predictions because, as you guys all said, like based on where you guys live and what releases in what way, you guys have not seen necessarily the bulk of what has come out. And so I think that that's almost more interesting because when you watch something, I feel like your emotions get involved versus when you're just watching the awards and what's getting nominated. I think it's easier almost to pick because you are seeing it in front of you, like what is happening with these various awards. So let's jump into it. We'll start at the bottom, I guess, and work our way up. So we'll start with Best Animated Feature. So for me, Best Animated Feature, I feel like, and Jacob, I know you're a guy who's big into animation, so I feel like we'll be on the same page here. Let me know if I say something where we're not on the same page. I feel like it's pretty obvious because there were a decent amount of animated films this year, but I feel like the ones that were the best just really and quickly obviously became the best, and then everything else was just kind of okay. Like I feel like you can very quickly eliminate the ones that had big releases. Like the first one I think of was like Moana, right? Like obviously Moana, a Disney picture, big blockbuster film, but it's fine. It's okay. And so it takes itself out of the competition very easily. So I would say Inside Out 2 will get nominated.
Mhm.
The Wild Robot gets nominated.
Yeah.
Flow gets nominated. Memoir of a Snail gets nominated.
Mhm.
And Wallace and Gromit gets nominated.
Those are the 5 that I have as well.
Yeah.
I think the one you mentioned, Moana 2, that's the next one, and even that, like, I don't think there's a chance. Like I think the 5 are locks.
Yeah. I would say in terms of, like if I just pull up 2024 films, in terms of other animated films that existed this year, like, yeah, Moana 2 came out. What was it?
Kung Fu Panda 4.
Said chicken for Linda.
Chicken for lunch.
Chicken. So I had not heard that title until earlier today. Somebody said that, and you're the second person today to say that. What is this?
I am not familiar either. It was just the first thing that came up on the list of predictions that I'm looking at. I mean, other than the 6 that we already mentioned. So I'm not familiar, it seems, but like it's in 7th place on this list I'm looking at.
Oh, okay. I mean, it is French. And those French films do have a history of getting in at the Academy Awards easily.
Is Memoir of a Snail French?
Australian.
No, that is Australian.
I think just the snail part might have tricked me into thinking French, to be fair.
Son of a bitch.
Memoir of a Snail, by the way, fantastic. My favorite movie of 2024.
Really? Okay.
Excellent. It is excellent. It's not my favorite of the year, but it's in my top 20. It's really good.
I was
Inside Out 2, like I obviously haven't seen a ton, but Inside Out 2 is actually at the top of my list right now.
Of those ones, I was going to go with the Wild Robot. I really love the Wild Robot. I haven't seen Flow though, and I've heard good things from anyone who has seen it. But
so Flow is almost. And Jacob, have you seen Flow?
Yeah.
Okay. Flow to me feels almost like a more artistic version of the Wild Robot. Like I feel like they're going in terms of themes and messaging. I feel like they're going for the exact same thing. It's just Flow. Obviously, it has the fact that it is an international feature. It will very possibly be a dual nominated film for international feature and for animated. And it also has the fact that it's dialogueless, but
Okay.
I feel like the fact that it and the Wild Robot are so close to each other in terms of themes and messaging, I don't know if that hurts its chances or does it help it in terms of, because it is kind of a more artistic take on the same idea.
It did win the Golden Globe, but then again, so did Missing Link the year that it and Toy Story 4 were.
But also, Golden Globes are always an international thing, right? So
Yeah,
they were going to lean
that's
towards the.
They were also very heavy on Emilia Perez as well. So
yeah.
I think it's between Flo and the Wild Robot personally. As much as I would love to see Memoir of a Snail pull it out, I think those are the two with Inside Out coming up third. I think it's a strong year as far as the nominations go, but yeah, like the five outside of the five, like I don't think there's anything that was super strong, unfortunately.
And we did mention off air Transformers was not eligible because of the whatever behind the scenes.
Yeah, and I should state I would say I'm 90% certain on that, but just going off of
this list I'm looking at does include it for what it's worth. It's variety, so I don't know how seriously we want to take them, but
so possibly there's a chance that I am incorrect, but I know that the way that the eligibility rules for animation play, if the movie's produced by a VFX company and not an animation company, that usually does deem it ineligible because it's a VFX film and not an animated film. So, like, for example, just to go with a bigger company, The Lion King, for example, Mufasa would not be eligible for Best Animated Feature because it's a VFX film produced by the VFX division of Disney, not an animated film. That's the same. Historically, the biggest film for people who have never heard of this, the Lego Movie. For anyone who's ever asked why wasn't the Lego Movie nominated, it's because it was actually deemed ineligible. Because the company that made those 4 films, Animal Logic, are a VFX company, not an animation company. So it was deemed a visual effects movie, not an animated film. But it is obviously an animated film, and it definitely should have won.
Change that.
So, I mean, if Transformers is eligible, I haven't seen Transformers yet either, but I would assume that would probably take the place of Moana 2, right? Like,
oh, it's better. Yes,
it's better. It's that one, and also Piece by Piece, the Lego documentary.
Piece by Piece was good.
On Pharrell.
Is that one also same company that did the Lego Movie though?
I'm not.
No, sure. I don't believe so.
Because I wasn't sure if that would also. That's the other one. I guess I forgot about that movie existing. But that one, if it's eligible, then it might have a shot.
And again, take it with a grain of salt on this article, but Piece by Piece is on it as well.
That's from Variety.
That's fair.
Right? I know they were on.
The problem is, so if it makes any difference, the problem is Piece by Piece, it doesn't actually have a production company attached, which is really weird. Like, obviously it does, but like when I look at the production companies, it says the Lego Group, which is just the Lego company, and then it has Tremolo Productions, which is the production company of Morgan Neville, the director, who's a documentarian, and then I Am Other, which is Pharrell's record and clothing brand label. So there isn't, like, whereas with the Lego Movie, like Animal Logic was attached as a production company alongside Warner Brothers, there isn't one attached to this, so I don't know who made this movie.
Focus Features is what I'm looking at.
They also don't have an animated division, so
yeah.
And Universal does own 2 animation companies. They own DreamWorks and they own Illumination, and neither are attached to this. So I don't really know who made this.
What strange collection. Okay.
Yeah, I can't find any. If anybody at home that watches this can figure out who the hell animated this movie, I'd be so interested to know.
Someone hit up Pharrell.
Focus Features not a thing. I mean, like, I guess you said they don't have.
Focus Features is. So I don't know if they have an animated. They don't have an animated department. Then
to use the bigger studio, Focus Features is to Universal what Searchlight is to Disney. It's like their Oscar division where they put out dramas and stuff like that.
Yeah, it checks out.
Or like Sony has Sony Classics, or every major studio has like a division that handles like their Oscar stuff or their dramas or stuff like that.
Okay.
Right.
That's what Focus Pictures is.
So presumably it's eligible if their Oscar division handled it. Maybe.
Yeah,
I
you
don't
presume so.
You'd
I don't know,
assume,
man.
yeah.
What? That's the problem at this point with the Academy Awards, which is like when trying to keep track of like the different rules of eligibility or ineligibility. It's not even worth it at a certain point. But yeah, any other discussion on animated films or?
I was just gonna check on the on another website, see if they had anything on it, but I don't see anything yet.
It's so weird to me that a whole animated movie could get made and there's seemingly, although you know what, Universal completely.
No, that wouldn't be it.
We do have
Yeah,
a
no, I'm not
comic,
seeing anything about the piece by piece stuff. Who knows?
Pure Imagination and Zebu Animation. Have never heard of either of those. So
I'll trust Chris on this one though, for sure.
Is it
I
Diaz?
don't know. I don't believe he would lie. I'm just saying I've never heard of either of them. So now I'm like, what are these two studios that aren't credited?
You love it.
Oh, I guess Ultraman. The Ultraman movie might also have a long shot, but we'll see.
Okay, well, it looks like Pure Imagination is the name of a studio that does a lot of the like direct to DVD Lego productions.
Okay, so Piece by Piece and Transformers 1 should both be eligible, but it just depends.
That's fine. If I was wrong on Transformers, then absolutely, I think that's great.
This is just according to what website is this? IndieWire.
Okay, I trust them. Yeah, IndieWire.
Yeah, they're usually pretty good on it, and they're on their list as possible contenders. So
yeah, I would trust them. Zebu Animation, I cannot find any company history for Zebu Animation. When I go to their actual website, it literally just starts advertising piece by piece.
Great.
I think they might have only ever worked on this movie.
You know what? Good for them.
Oh, here we go. I found something. Okay. They did PSAs for Lego about COVID-19. And they did what looks like a Raymond Rabbids animated show.
Oh, okay.
Amazing.
Yeah, I'm familiar with
And then
that.
they've done a bunch of... Okay, so both animation companies that made this film...
They've made small stuff for...
do small Lego shit. All right, well, fair enough. All right, anything else on animation? Or are we moving on?
Nah, let's move on.
All right, cool. All right, then let's get into best adapted screenplay with this one. So I feel like the best way to do this is because I have all the notes in front of me, rather than just running it down and ruining the conversation, I want to start with you guys, just based off where you're looking at different awards topics. Are there any names you're seeing, whether you've seen the movie or you just have a feeling based off of what you've noticed? Is there anything that you guys are feeling?
Lead Unknown seems to be like maybe it'll make it.
Yeah. I would say Dune probably does have a shot, but it's because I think Dune came out in, what was it, March or April this year?
March, yeah.
Right? So I feel like it's kind of gotten a bit thrown under the radar. Wicked counts, right? Wicked would be adapted. Yeah. So
yes, Wicked is adapted.
Probably be up there. I'm trying to think of what else.
I think
Inside Out 2, maybe.
It.
Or Nosferatu, I guess, could also get up there, I think, now that I'm thinking about it. Because that would also... Or, yeah, that counts as best adapted. So, yeah.
Yeah, Nosferatu is adapted. Did somebody say Inside Out 2?
I was thinking Inside Out 2 should also qualify for that, right? Because it's like based on...
That would be adapted, yes. Yeah. So sequels, even if the original film is an IP, a sequel is always adapted.
Yeah, so...
shit, I did not know that.
Maybe Inside Out 2 has a long
for example, shot. The most recent famous nomination was Glass Onion, which was nominated for adapted screenplay.
Right. Yes, it was.
Because it's
Okay, fair
following
enough.
up on another film.
Okay. Yeah. So I don't know.
Look
Those
out
are the ones
for
I can
Wake
think
Up
of off
Dead
the
Man
top of my
next year.
head, but I don't know what else is.
It looks like
Adapted.
Conclave seems to be the big.
Is
Yeah,
Conclave
so-
based on something?
It is based on a book, yes.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
So yeah, so I'll go into it now because I have all the stats in front of me. So my personal pick, just based off the movies, would be Conclave. And so for anyone who's curious, I don't personally look at critic circles as a precursor for the Oscars because I don't think Hollywood figures are paying attention to critic circles as precursors for nominations. Industry people do admit that, like, if you go look up interviews and stuff, people have admitted that they look at major award shows that they would physically attend for movies they haven't seen. So if something's heavily nominated, they put that at the top of their watch list just based off other people saying that it's worth it. And so that's kind of how that works. So the shows that I look at, that I sort of take stock in, are the Golden Globes, not sincerely what is nominated or wins, but just if it's actively in the conversation, then I think it helps that it got nominated there as well. The Critics' Choice, I think, are important because more and more celebrities are actually attending the Critics' Choice Awards. It seems to be the one thing that's translated. Similarly, in LA, they have what's called the Astra Awards, which is a large segment of people who are a part of the Critics' Choice Association, but also a lot of below the line people. So we're talking like the tech part of the industry are a part of the association that makes up the Astra Awards. So I put that there as well because I think those films are in the conversation for below the line categories. And so that kind of works its way up. A lot of the films that are at the top, you will have for the below the line nominees as well. And then, of course, the guilds, the DGA, the PGA, the WGA, SAG, and the BAFTAs. Because basically everyone who is eligible to vote for the BAFTAs is eligible for the Academy. So if a film is doing well there, that's possibly going to translate unless it's only doing well at the BAFTAs. So with that said, if we're looking at the precursors, Conclave and Nickel Boys actually are the two that are the most nominated of the precursor awards that I look at. Both made it to 4 or 5.
Okay.
And for what it's worth, Conclave only wasn't nominated at the WGA because it's ineligible, because the Writers Guild doesn't allow films to be nominated if the writer isn't a member of the WGA, and Peter Strawn, who wrote it, is not. Actually, a number of films this year were ineligible because of that. I believe The Brutalist was ineligible because Brady Corbett and Mona Fastvold are not. The Substance, Coralie Farge, is not a member of the WGA, so she was deemed ineligible for her screenplay. There's a few of them. Amelia Perez was deemed ineligible.
Nominations, and it's like, oh, I didn't expect to see that there.
Yeah. The WGA is the funniest of the awards because it's like, oh, all the stuff that's getting nominated everywhere else, a lot of it's ineligible. What's left?
Yeah, like My Old Ass got nominated in
Which
original. Like
was really well. I'm not sad about that, but
no,
I've only heard good things about My Old Ass.
it's a good movie. It's not
really
one that you
Right,
expect
the movie
to
too.
pop up in. And then as far as
I don't know why I'm saying this on the internet, but I can't lie. I looked at a picture someone took of me from behind earlier and went, shit, it looks good there. Okay.
I always, every time I see a picture of my own ass, I feel like the Captain America in Endgame when he's like, that is America. I say that is Canada's ass every time I see it.
That's Canada's ass right there. Look
That's
at that.
Canada's ass, right? That and Ryan Reynolds' ass. Those are the two.
Those are the two.
He just gets more publicity. That's all it is.
That's fair. Yeah. That Deadpool suit does do wonders for him, though.
Oh,
we have to wonder, is it all natural?
Honestly,
You're
even
East
if
Coast, right, Mindy?
I'm West Coast.
Oh, never mind. Then you're
Or
fucked.
Central, technically, but we're more leaning towards the West.
Oh,
We're
I guess
above
three
North
answers.
Dakota, so it's kind of in that mid section. But yeah,
Oh shit! I didn't realize you were right above me.
yeah, come on up, or I can come on down whenever I have time.
Fuck yeah!
But yeah, so I would say just based off my own opinion as well, I think Conclave is the front runner. I think it's going to win the award personally. I think it is the best written. I have to address the comments. Chris Diaz has made it very clear in the comments he is not a fan of Emilia Perez. There's enough comments that are building up that I feel like I should say that for the audience that watches later. If you know Chris Diaz, he's not a fan of Emilia Perez.
I haven't heard anyone who is a fan of that movie, to be fair, though. Like
Europeans.
It's really, that's all I've heard is just like a certain subsect of people are a fan of it, and then everyone else is like
people who have never been to Mexico.
Yeah. Like
people who don't speak Spanish. Big fans.
Yeah.
But so aside from Conclave, Nickel Boys is actually the next most nominated if you look at a lot of the major award precursors. I don't think Nickel Boys has much hope at Best Picture, so I do think a screenplay nomination is probably in line for the film because I do think it'll receive something. In terms of what's left, what's been nominated multiple times, Dune Part 2 has 3 major nominations, as does Emilia Perez, as does Sing Sing, as does Wicked. And then A Complete Unknown, and funny enough, Richard Linklater's Hitman both have 2 major nominations, although Linklater's Hitman nomination one of them is with the WGA, so again, stuff was ineligible, so it's like, did it get it? Did it not?
I don't think it'll make it at the Oscars. Was part of the writer.
Co-writing it?
Yeah, I forgot about that.
No.
Okay.
And him and Linklater wrote it together, and it's a really good screenplay. Like,
it's fine, but I don't think it's up there.
It's not Oscar, but it is.
You're not gonna put Hitman next to Conclave and say which of these is better. It's an obvious answer, right?
Right. It's Hitman.
So
exactly.
If I were predicting, I think Conclave makes it. I think Nickel Boys makes it, and then I think A Complete Unknown has an outside chance because it only has 2, but it did get it at the WGA and the BAFTAs, so those are 2 big ones for it to land. But I do think those other 3 spots are between those last 5. So Dune Part 2, Emilia Perez, Sing Sing, Wicked, and A Complete Unknown. I think it's basically 5 films vying for 3 spots, and I think Conclave and Nickel Boys will get in.
Yeah.
Although, funny enough, if any of these films is going to get snubbed, I think it also could be Nickel Boys, because I think Oscar voters care less about this film than critics do.
I genuinely don't even know what Nickel Boys is, to be honest with you. But like, if it's been getting that many nominations, sure, why not? But I think from my picks, I would go Conclave for sure. I'd put Dune in there. Wicked, Sing Sing, I've heard really good things about. And then sure, Nickel Boys, I guess, would be the 5.
Fair enough. Anyone else have a contradiction or anything else worth bringing up in the conversation?
Oh, I have an entire list for all of these. Yeah, my 5, I have.
Oh, I didn't know that. Please, yeah.
No. I have Conclave. I have Sing Sing. Emilia Perez. I have A Complete Unknown. Sneaking in there, and then at 5 I have Nickel Boys, but I could easily see Wicked or Dude Part 2 taking that last spot. So those last 3, that's the one spot I'm not sure of.
Yeah.
Have you seen Nickel Boys, Aaron?
That is one of the ones I haven't seen. It's playing more. It only just released here this week, so I'll probably go check it out.
Okay.
So literally I have tomorrow and Tuesday off. And literally my next 2 days is I'm going to wake up tomorrow, I'm going to get that stuff edited, and then it's just, okay, how can I plan to see as many movies as possible in the next 2 days just to catch up on everything that's out?
Right. Okay. Yeah, I'm curious about it. If it's been getting that kind of buzz behind it at other award shows, then sure, I'll consider it, but
I don't know the plot details of it. I do know that it is a coming-of-age story about 2 younger Black boys, but I know that I don't want to say the gimmick because that feels like I'm dismissing it, but like the thing that makes it stand out is it's told through a first-person POV. but I believe it switches depending on where the movie's at. So it's
Okay.
always first person, but it's from the perspective of one of these two boys.
Okay, gotcha.
Which certainly is unique, but again, having not seen it, I can't judge the quality of the film versus like, is it just it's got a cool gimmick and then it's also like a good movie. But yeah, so we'll go on then to original screenplay.
Dude, are we all gonna do predictions or?
Oh, my bad. Yeah, did you guys want to?
I was gonna say
This is what
Tato's the
happens
only
when we
one
don't-
left.
This
Yeah,
is what
sure.
happens when I don't plan.
Yeah,
My
just
bad. I'm
for
a
the
dick.
sake
Go
of
ahead.
it, I'll shoot Conclave, Nickel Boys, Amelia Perez, Sing Sing, and Complete Unknown.
I'm gonna go back and watch this and write these down. I'm not gonna bother doing it live, but I'm gonna go back and write these down just to see how many we get right. I'll be curious.
I can just send you mine. I got them on the Google Doc.
I
That's
didn't
probably
write mine
easier.
down. You're gonna have to go back. Sorry.
That's fine. I'll watch it. It's not that hard. I'll have to watch it anyways to time code it after the fact. So because I'm not taking any notes right now. All right. So then let's move on to best original screenplay. Jacob, then I'll start with you since you have a list. Let me hear what you got. And let me see if it coincides with what I have right here.
So I have 5, and then I have 2 that I think are like just outside that could contend for that 5th spot.
Okay.
So I have The Brutalist, Honora, A Real Pain, The Substance, and then September 5. And then just outside I have Hard Truths and Challengers.
A Real Pain is
Okay.
the not Macaulay Culkin. What's his brother's
Kieran
name?
Culkin, yeah.
Kieran
Culkin and
Jesse
Jesse
Eisenberg.
Eisenberg, right? Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
Just dropped on Hulu too, so I'll be checking that out.
Oh shoot. Okay.
It's very, very good. I would recommend if you have Hulu or Disney Plus, maybe if it's on there too, go check it out. It's very good.
Okay.
All right. So then Tato and Madi, I'll start with you guys up next. Just off of what you've heard, what you've read, Jacob's nominate predictions, what do you guys sort of have getting in there?
Tato, I'll let
Yeah,
you go first.
I like Barber's top 4. I will echo that. Honora, Real Pain, Brutalist, and Substance. But then Challengers does get in, and I will speak a little extra on that one because I like Challengers quite a bit. And I might. Do you have the correct pronunciation of the writer's name on Challengers, Aaron?
Justin Kuritzky's.
Kuritzky's delightful. Yeah, I've been on that dude's dick since 2011, so I want to see him.
Nice.
I'm sure he used that for inspiration while writing a movie like Challengers.
Yeah.
I'm trying to think of what the other ones were. I guess the top 4, I guess we can all pretty much agree on. Like I've heard a lot about The Substance. It wasn't a movie that I cared to watch, but Honora I've heard fantastic things about. Brutalist is probably a for sure thing. What was it called? Real Pain. So those 4 I feel like are definitely a lock. And then I think for my 5th one, I'm gonna go with what was the religious horror movie that came out with Hugh Grant?
Heretic.
Oh, Heretic.
Heretic. That's the one. That one I feel like might get in. I know it's a horror movie, so it's not likely to, but I don't know. That one I feel like people might put in because I feel like that movie did get a lot of love at the Golden Globes. So no.
Yeah. All right. So then I'll go to what I have, and you guys have basically said everything that I'm going to say, so this will be super quick. Going off the precursor awards that I used for this were the Golden Globes, Critics' Choice, the Astro Awards, the WGA, and the BAFTAs. Honora and A Real Pain are 5 for 5. They've been nominated everywhere, so I'd imagine they would keep that energy here. The Brutalist and The Substance are 4 for 5, but as we previously discussed, Brady Corbet and Coralie Farge are not WGA members, so they were ineligible to be nominated at that award show. So everything they could have made, they did make. So I would say those 4 do make it. Honora, A Real Pain, The Brutalist, The Substance. As for using the precursor awards, the film that is best positioned would be Justin Kuritzky's for Challengers. He's made 3 of 5, including the Writers Guild. In terms of using those award shows, other films that made it, there's only 2 options that kind of made it outside of those films. Irish film Kneecap was nominated at the BAFTAs, although that is an Irish film being nominated at the BAFTAs, so take your pick. And then September 5 was nominated at the Critics' Choice Awards, but any award show that involved industry professionals, it didn't really ever seem to get in. And September 5 that's kind of been September 5's story. It was another one of those films similar to Nickel Boys, where when critics saw it, it was proclaimed as this potential frontrunner, but the industry hasn't really taken to it in the way that a lot of outside people have. The one nomination that a lot of people seem to feel that it has on lock is editing. But aside from that, it doesn't really have much play anywhere else unless it made a late stage push to get in, which I think would be interesting if it did. But yeah, so I would agree. Do you guys feel like what you said earlier tracks? I mean, we all agreed on the 4 of them, so I feel like you guys gave your predictions already. If we feel good to move on.
Good.
All right, cool. All right, so then we'll go ahead and jump into Best Supporting Actress as we start with the acting awards next. And then Barbara, I'll keep with you as well because I think it's interesting to see if your energy matches what I have. So what do you have written down there?
So I have supporting actress. I have Zoe Saldana, Isabella Rossellini, Felicity Jones, Ariana Grande, and then I have Jamie Lee Curtis sneaking into that 5th spot. But I think you could make a case for Danielle Deadwyler, Margaret Qualley, and Selena Gomez as well.
What are you nominating Jamie Lee Curtis from?
The Last Showgirl.
Oh, okay.
So
I think it could be one of those where what was her name from To Leslie? That one surprise.
Andrea Riseborough.
Yeah, like I think it could be one of those where it gets a late push and it's one of those, surprise. Yeah. Well, no one was expecting that. I mean, she's getting some nominations, but yeah, I don't know. I could see a surprise happening, and
you can steal a win. She can steal a nom. That's for damn sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. So then I'll go to Midi or Tato, whoever wants to take it first, just off of what you've seen and heard both here and before. What do you guys kind of think?
I mean, I would probably go Ariana Grande for sure. Zoe Saldana. From The Brutalist, Felicity Jones. I kind of want to say Saoirse Ronan from Blitz, just because she's always good and she's an Oscars darling. She's been nominated a bunch of times. She just hasn't won. And then it was Danielle Deadwyler from Piano Lesson, right? Is the one you said?
Yeah.
That's the other one that I've been hearing quite a bit about. So I'll go with those 5.
All right. Tato?
I will take Saldana and Grande, of course. Rossellini, Danielle Deadwyler, and then I will also take a sneaky Jamie Lee Curtis.
Okay. All right. So using the precursors that I have here, let's get into this. So again, the same 4 from the writing: Golden Globes, Critics' Choice, ASTRA, and BAFTA, and then obviously switch out the Writers Guild for the SAG. Grande and Saldana are 5 for 5. So I would say pretty solidly those 2 are going to be locks. And then from there, it is wide open. There's a lot of names. Danielle Deadwyler for what's the name of the movie? The Piano Lesson?
Lesson. Yeah.
Okay. So Danielle Deadwyler for The Piano Lesson, she is 3 for 5, including a SAG nomination. Selena Gomez is 3 for 5, including a BAFTA nomination. Margaret Qualley is 3 for 5, but the most legitimate nomination she received was the Golden Globe. Once it comes to SAG or the BAFTAs, she has not been nominated. Isabella Rossellini is 3 for 5 with the BAFTA nomination. Anjanae Ellis Taylor is 2 for 5, but both of hers were the critic ones, the Critics' Choice and the ASTRA Awards. Jamie Lee Curtis is 2 for 5, but both of hers were the SAG Award and the BAFTA. And then Felicity Jones is 2 for 5, with her 2 being the Golden Globes and the BAFTA. And then there's also Monica Barbaro, who's only been nominated for A Complete Unknown at one major award show, but it was the SAG. So there's a lot of crossover with the Academy with her receiving that nomination.
So it's wide open
So-
apart from those top two.
It is wide open. And I would say those top two are the two competing for the win. So all the
Yeah.
other spots are kind of left open. It's interesting. So I'm going to, there's an article that I'm going to plug more than once. And it was written by Clayton Davis over at Variety. And it was basically an article discussing speaking with Academy members as they were leaving. Because for anyone who doesn't know, like, the Academy does have a physical voting poll that you can go to and vote in LA. And Variety had people stand outside and talk to voting members of the Academy and sort of just get a feel for what have you seen, what have you watched, what's your stance on certain things, just to sort of try and get a feel from the voters themselves. And one of the more interesting things that I'd heard is Felicity Jones for The Brutalist. A lot of voters admitted to either, if they hadn't already seen the film prior to like the last 2 weeks, a lot of people admitted to just not watching the film because it is 3.5 hours. It's a 2-part film. And obviously LA's been dealing with what LA's been dealing with. So it's kind of the least opportune film to watch.
It also doesn't
lot of
sound
people-
that interesting. Like, it's a 3.5 hour film about architecture.
Yeah, that's fair. A lot of people also admitted to watching the film, but only completing the first half of it because it is a film split in 2 halves with an intermission if you go see it in the theater. Felicity Jones is not introduced until the second half. And so I think that will greatly affect her ability to be nominated because I just simply think not enough voters are going to have seen her performance. And to be fair, Brady Corbet, who made the film, has addressed this publicly. Like, he's fully aware that he's made a film that's not Oscar friendly. He just doesn't seem to care, and he's happy that the movie's getting any attention that it is getting. But I don't think she'll make it simply because I don't know outside of the BAFTAs, because that's the other thing that's interesting is the BAFTAs and the Golden Globes, both international awards bodies.
Okay.
I don't know if enough people in America have actually seen her performance to nominate it.
Fair point.
And I've not seen the film yet, so I can't. It's one of the few like in the race that I've not seen, so I
Who has
can't.
time to see it though? That's the other thing. Like,
You know what's funny? I did actually have tickets to go see it at like an art house theater, but the show was so sold out that the only seats that were left were like the uncomfortable ones in the back, so I just got a refund and left.
Yeah.
I was like, I'm not doing this for 3.5 hours.
It's one of those that I'm definitely going to watch at home instead.
so, like, you know what it is? Like, it reminds me of when The Irishman came out, and that's like also like a 3-hour plus
Mhm.
movie, but it's
Yeah.
on Netflix. So I had it on at home, and I paused it, went about my day for a bit, came back and watched the rest of it. Like, it feels like it more should be a show than it should be a movie. Because if it's past 3 hours, like it's 3.5 hours and there's an intermission, you might as well just split it up into like 40-minute episodes and then just release it as a series at this point.
Yeah, that's fair. I'm sure I'm going to piss somebody off by saying this, but I don't think that ever has a hope in hell in happening because I also think Brady Corbet is kind of a pretentious fuck who likes the idea that he made a movie that
It has to
long.
be
But
film. Yeah.
yeah, just that's kind of the impression I get from him. No disrespect to him. Like, I'm sure if I ever met him and we talked about other people's movies, we'd have a great conversation, but I never want to hear him talk about one of his own movies ever again. But yeah, so if I had to pick, again, Grande Saldana seemed pretty obvious. I don't think Quali gets in simply because she's not been being nominated by industry bodies. So I think that hurts her chances of making it. I actually do think Jamie Lee Curtis is going to get Oscar nominated just because her two are the SAG and the BAFTA. Like, that's the opposite of Quali. She's being nominated by the industry, not the critics, whereas Quali is a critic's favorite, not the industry favorite. So I think it's Grande. I think it's Saldana. I think it'll be Jamie Lee Curtis. I think Danielle Deadweiler will make it because she has love from other places and she got the SAG nom. And then I think that last one's going to be between Isabella Rossellini and Monica Barbaro. If I had to pick one, I'd say Rossellini.
Rossellini, I feel like she was fine in the movie, but I was never coming out of that movie going, yeah, she was a standout actress in this. I just felt like, yeah, she filled her
That's
role.
fair.
You know,
I
was definitely much more impressed by Ray Fiennes, obviously because it's Ray Fiennes, but and also by John Lithgow in that film. But for the roles that she had, I was just like, all right, yeah, she's filling her role, but I didn't think she was doing anything exceptional.
Yeah, that's fair. I thought she was really, really good in it. I also think maybe she benefits from being like a long-standing industry vet.
Yeah.
And I don't believe she's ever been nominated, so that might help her. But yeah, any other thoughts on supporting actress, or are you guys good?
Good.
Yeah.
All right. So then we'll move on to Best Supporting Actor. Barbara, I'll go back to you, sir. What do you got?
Yes, Best Supporting Actor, or as I like to call it, the Kieran Culkin Award.
The participation trophy this year.
I think he's a lock. And then I have Yura Borisov from Anora, Edward Norton, Guy Pearce, and then I have Clarence Macklin sneaking into that fifth spot. But I think Denzel Washington, Jeremy Strong, and Stanley Tucci all have a case to be made as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Madi, Tato, which one of you wants to go first? What do you guys think?
Yeah, Kieran Culkin Award sounds good to me. I will also take Norton, Borisov, and Guy Pearce, and I will take Jeremy Strong for my fifth slot.
Madi?
What's Jeremy Strong in? I can't remember what he was in. That was
The Apprentice.
The Apprentice.
Oh, right. Okay. Yeah, fair enough. Yeah, Kieran Culkin, I've only been hearing great things. Sorry, say that again?
Sorry, I was just saying Jeremy Strong, best actor.
Yeah. Yeah, Kieran Culkin's pretty much got this on lock. Guy Pearce, I've heard good things about. Stanley Tucci from Conclave was really good. I also wouldn't mind seeing John Lithgow, either one of those two, get the nom. I've also heard really good things about Ray Fisher and Sam Jackson in The Piano Lesson. I'd like to see either one of them get in. Probably not going to happen, but hey, a man can dream. And then, yeah, I think that's all I got. I don't know how many that was, honestly, off the top of my head.
We'll figure it out later.
Yeah.
So, of the ones you mentioned there, actually, I wish the one that shocked me the most is the fact that Tucci's not in contention at all. Because I feel like people left that movie being like, he's going to get nominated, and he has no nominations anywhere at any major award shows. Neither does Lithgow.
Really?
So at this point, they're not.
Nope. Yeah, that's why he's like the last on my list.
I think those are the two, a combination of the two. One or the other, I think, would have gotten it. But I think their absence is probably the most shocking thing from this year's race.
Interesting. Okay.
In terms of who has been nominated, yeah, look, this is the Kieran Culkin Participation Award. He's going to win this.
I'll probably watch that movie this weekend or next weekend if I have time.
It's only 80 minutes, so.
Oh, perfect. Yeah.
Yeah. So of the others, Yura Borisov is 5 for 5 on Precursors, so I think he is pretty set to get in. Edward Norton is 4 for 4 on Precursors. Guy Pearce is 4 for 5 on Precursors. So I think both of them are probably good to get in. And then Clarence Macklin is 3 for 5. Jeremy Strong is 3 for 5. Denzel Washington is 3 for 5, although that movie entirely has lost steam, so I don't think he'll wind up getting in. And then probably the most shocking inclusion of the award season is Jonathan Bailey, who is 2 for 5 on major award shows, including a SAG nomination that seemingly came from nowhere. for his performance in
I
Wicked.
didn't really think he had enough to do in that. Like,
Yeah, I wouldn't put
he
him.
was fine, but
I like the movie, but I wouldn't put him on that level yet.
yeah, he's probably like my 7th, 6th favorite thing about the movie, maybe.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's fair.
I am curious.
I mean,
Is there anything from the piano lesson? Because I've only heard good things about Ray Fisher and Sam Jackson in that movie. As like
so
supporting
Sam
cast.
Sam Jackson was an early favorite at a lot of critics award shows, but that hasn't translated into the major ones.
Okay, I see. All right.
Yeah. I also just think Netflix didn't do a good enough job marketing that film. It seems like a lot of their marketing money has gone towards Emilia Perez. So
Fair, yeah. Surprise on that one.
So I do think that Culkin, Borisov, Norton, and Pierce are locks. And then if I had to pick from the rest, I would say it's probably going to be Jeremy Strong. However, I think there's a good chance that Macklin or Bailey get in over Guy Pearce. I know
Really?
that he
Okay.
I know that he has the precursor backing. But if a lot of Academy voters are admitting to, just because of recent conditions and the intensity of the film, not watching or not completing The Brutalist, though Guy Pearce is in the first half of the movie, unlike Felicity Jones, I wonder if that affects him. Going back to the article I referenced, one of the other notes that was brought up when speaking to Oscar voters is, in recent weeks, Oscar voters have been watching or even rewatching Oscar films that have a more inspiring note to them and have a more positive note to them just because of the way people are feeling in LA. So The Brutalist, being as dour as it is not something people are gravitating to. But Bailey being in Wicked or Clarence Macklin being in Sing Sing, which has a very hopeful, inspirational ending, I do think it actually benefits them compared to Guy Pearce, who is playing. I can't be 100% certain on this, but I believe he's playing a more antagonistic role in a film that's already pretty dour. So even though the film has made it at a lot of places, I wonder if he will make it to the Oscars. I don't know. I think he is a very, very good potential to be a surprise miss.
Interesting. Okay.
And then I want to go, because you were talking about Jonathan Bailey specifically. See, I'm not going to disagree with Chris on the scene stealer part, because I do think his dancing through life sequence might be the best individual sequence in the movie, aside from the ending of the movie itself.
The ending is definitely the biggest.
But I don't know if one great song sequence is enough to get an Academy Award. Like, he's good, but I just don't think the character has enough writing to it to back up that nomination. If anything, that's something I think you come back around to in part 2.
I was gonna say, I was Jacob and I were on the same page. I was thinking Anne Hathaway from Les Mis. Just, I mean, granted, in the story of Les Mis, that song is like the big, like,
that song is the Defying Gravity. Like, that's the equivalent.
Yeah, it would be the equivalent. But I think even still, Anne Hathaway's in that movie for what, like 30 minutes in total, and that song is like her big, let me put it all out there now sort of thing. But you know, I don't know. I liked him in the movie, but again, I don't think I put him as much of a favorite to even get nominated. I just saw in the comments, Chris says that in part 2 he's got a lot more to do, which they do kind of set up. Spoiler alert. So maybe for part 2, if he's got more to do and he pulls it off as well or better than he did in part 1, then sure.
But yeah, so I would say to officially predict,
I don't know. I just don't see him getting nominated because it's not a meaty enough role.
Yeah, to officially predict, I'll leave Pierce in there, but alongside Borisov, Culkin, Norton, and I'm gonna say Jeremy Strong. But I do think there's a chance that Pierce or Strong could be left out for Macklin or Bailey.
I was gonna, but
again,
the Apprentice is like a pretty, in Hollywood specifically, is probably not a popular movie based on who it's about.
No.
Right? So
no.
like up here we have our own opinions about him, but like in Hollywood specifically, they're pretty liberal in terms of their political ideals.
Mhm.
So I wouldn't imagine that Jeremy Strong would necessarily get a lot of love just because of what the movie's portraying. You know what I mean? I don't want to say that they're doing it because of a political thing.
No, I think you're correct, but I think that affects Sebastian Stan more than it affects him.
Okay, all right, yeah, no, I see what you mean then. Okay,
Because and the only reason I say that is because Jeremy Strong did get the SAG nomination.
right. No,
So
yeah, fair enough.
clearly there are a sect of American voters that like the role enough that they're willing to put it up there. I think the person who gets fucked is Sebastian Stan, because no matter how good he is in the movie, and I've heard he's excellent. I've not seen it, but I've heard he's great in the film. Because it is Donald Trump, I do think the optics exist of not wanting to nominate Trump.
Yeah, and also if he did get nominated, you know that motherfucker won't shut up. Because I got nominated for an Oscar. It's like, no, someone got nominated for.
They
playing
said
it.
I was the best actor at the Academy Awards.
Yeah, Baron,
Those
you're just
Hollywood-
better than
Jesus.
All right. Well, let's move on to Best Actress. Barbara, what do you got?
So I have Demi Moore, Mikey Madison, Cynthia Erivo, Carla Sofia Gascon, and then Fernanda Torres in that fifth spot. But I think Marianne Jean Baptiste and Nicole Kidman, and then don't count out Pamela Anderson. She did get the SAG.
Mm-hmm.
So
yeah, we'll
does not sag at all.
Jesus.
Fucking Christ, I had to, you son of a bitch.
It's been years. They can start whenever they want to.
I will also take Mikey Madison and fucking so hard to not say Mike Madsen.
I've been saying that for the past 3 weeks.
Mikey Madsen, Demi Moore, Cynthia Erivo definitely deserving it. Carla Sofia Gascon, and I actually will take Pam as my fifth because fuck it, why not?
Madi?
So I'm gonna go Cynthia Erivo. Cynthia Erivo, Demi Moore. I'll go Mikey. Is it Mikey Madsen or Madison?
Madison.
Mikey Madison.
Mikey Madison. I feel like
If it-
Angelina Jolie will probably get one.
I'm going to completely out him here just because it is on camera from our first episode. If it makes all of you feel better, Matt had to ask me if it was Mikey or Mickey, so you guys are fine.
I feel a little bit better about myself. I appreciate you, Matt. What did I say? Cynthia Erivo, Mikey Madison, Demi Moore, Angelina Jolie. I've heard is really good in the biopic she did, and then yeah, I'll go with the Amelia Perez girl. I don't quite remember what her name is. Carla Gascon.
Sophia Gascon.
Carla Sofia Gascon. Yeah. Again, haven't heard much positive about the movie except for some of the performances, but you know, why not? And then Amy Adams is like a dark horse.
Yeah, so this one was interesting to look at. So again, this is one where I would say 4 of them are a lock. If we're looking at the precursors that I'm using for this, Cynthia Erivo, Carla Sofia Gascon, Mikey Madison, and Demi Moore are 5 for 5.
Okay.
So I would say those will get in. Of the rest, Angelina Jolie is 3 for 5, but she did not get the SAG and she did not get the BAFTA. Pamela Anderson is 2 for 5, but one of hers was the SAG. And is it Jean-Marie Baptiste? Is that her name? I don't want to get that wrong.
What movie is this for?
Hard Truth.
It's
okay.
Marianne Jean Baptiste.
Marianne Jean Baptiste.
Okay,
Thank you. Marianne Jean Baptiste. She is 2 for 5, but one of hers was the BAFTA. So I want to go to the Fernanda Torres thing real quick because not that I think you could be wrong. I think she has a chance still of getting in. But this year's Golden Globes was super interesting to me because there were 6 actresses who, when you talk about major award shows, were only nominated at the Golden Globes. Amy Adams, Nicole Kidman, Tilda Swinton, Fernanda Torres, Kate Winslet, and Zendaya. They were only nominated at the Globes. Now, obviously, the Globes have 12 spots for actresses, so more could get in. But the fact that none of them translated anywhere else, I think, is super interesting, except for Fernanda Torres, who did win her award at the show. And obviously, I think that put her on a lot of people's radar to possibly get nominated because she won the award. My question is, do you guys think she has the chance at translating? Or my opinion personally is I think she won because it is the Hollywood Foreign Press, and sometimes they are more partial to international films just because they have more exposure to it in terms of the film would have released and screened for them quicker than it would have screened for American audiences. I actually don't even think the film is properly released yet. I think it's coming out in a few weeks. So do you think she has a chance of getting in because she won the Globe? Obviously, Jacob, you do, so I'll start with you. Or where do you think that stands with that win?
Yeah, I think the Golden Globe win could be good for it. And I think like you said, the at least I think international voters I think could, whereas I think the other ones could kind of split the votes. I think she might have an advantage as far as international voters.
Absolutely.
It's really, I think anytime I put somebody in that 5th spot, that's my obviously I'm least confident in that person getting the nomination. So I wouldn't be surprised if that was the one I got wrong, and a Pamela Anderson or an Angelina Jolie pops up instead. So I'm not super confident. I think that Golden Globe win could translate to another nomination here.
What about Medea or Jake? Any thoughts?
I haven't really heard anything about it except for at the Golden Globes, to be completely frank. And also the fact that there is a Nicole Kidman performance that's getting some buzz, an Amy Adams performance that's getting some buzz. Angelina Jolie is getting some buzz. Pamela Anderson is getting quite a bit more buzz than I thought she would. And then there's also that Kate Winslet movie where she plays the reporter. What's it called?
Lee.
Lee, yeah. So I feel like odds are against her because there are so many other. And there was that Julianne Moore and Tilda Swinton movie that came out.
Yes.
Yeah. So
yeah, from Pablo Larraín.
It's a tough race for that 5th spot, I would say. And I feel like if you're only getting it because of the International Hollywood Foreign Press Association, who tend to lean more towards what celebrities can we get in and what's more popular overseas, you're not going to necessarily see that translate to the Oscars, right? Like Golden Globes at this point.
Yep. With that said, I think the actual 5 pick is probably Marianne Jean-Baptiste. I'm still going with Pam, but I think Pam is probably the 6th pick, really. And then I think you listed all the much more popular actresses with other things. So I don't think she has a shot, or I don't think she'll get in, but she does have an outside shot.
See, I would go the other way. I actually think Pam will wind up being the 5th spot simply because of the SAG nomination. And the other thing is, and again, this is a reference to that article that I'd referenced previously. One of the things that was kind of denoted in terms of campaigning for awards, I'm sure she has a team that's like a publicity team that's helping her campaign. But apparently a lot of Pam Anderson's campaigning is just Jamie Lee Curtis. She enjoys going to these parties and enjoys doing this type of thing. And I genuinely think it's going to be both or none. I think they either both get nominated and she has single-handedly swung herself and Pam Anderson nominations, or they won't get in either.
Hasn't Jamie Lee Curtis stolen enough Oscar stuff from other people?
I've heard that she's actually earned it in this one.
Then give it to Angela
This
Bassett.
nomination it's like the opposite of the like we should have given it to you then, but you'll get it now. It's like we gave it to you before, so you're probably not going to win now. But
Yeah, I'm okay with that difference then. But they should give it to Angela Bassett in her stead, just because.
You weren't in a movie this year, but come on up.
Yeah, it's Angela Bassett. Just have her come out. It'll be great.
Then, before we close off the segment and go on to Best Actor, I do want to ask you guys, because there legitimately isn't a frontrunner for this category. Like, supporting actor is real easy to pick. Supporting actress is between two, and I think Saldana is still considered the favorite of the two. In fact, if you guys tune in a couple of days for the pre-recorded episode we did as episode 1, Matt and I have a whole discussion about Ariana Grande's chances of winning, because personally, I don't believe she'll win. He was certainly more supportive of her, and we sort of get into that if you guys tune into that. But that is a 2-horse race. Actress and actor, I feel like, are still very much wide open. Cynthia Erivo, obviously, Wicked has a lot of support. Carla Sofia Gascon, Emilia Perez has a lot of international support. And of course, if she wins, she would not only become the first trans nominee, but the first trans winner. Mikey Madison was considered the early frontrunner. She's also kind of the star breaking through of this awards season. And Demi Moore has the comeback campaign going in her favor. So just real quick before we move on, who do you guys think is going to take the award?
Mikey Madison.
Yeah, I would want to say it's Cynthia Erivo, but I feel like it's going to have that thing of, oh, it's a part 1, so we'll give it to you for part 2 sort of thing. Like the same thing that happened with Lord of the Rings, the same thing that happened with
very
a number of other franchises. Like they didn't give anything to Dune when Dune came out, because they're like, oh, well, Dune part 2 is coming out soon, so we'll give it to you then. And then now they're just kind of forgetting about it.
Whoops.
Yeah. But I don't know, like just because it is, even though I do think that Cynthia Erivo and Ariana Grande both probably should win, because of how good they were in their respective roles, I just feel like because it is a part 1, they're going to say no, and they're going to say, we'll give it to her next time. And then that leaves me with either Demi Moore winning or I agree with Tato, actually. Mikey Madsen, I think, has a pretty good shot of taking it too. Because I've heard nothing but wonderful things about Anora from anyone who's seen it.
What do you think, Barber?
I'm going to go with Demi Moore, and that might just be because I've seen The Substance, and I think her performance is fantastic. Maybe had I seen Anora, maybe my vote would be different. But I think Demi Moore just gives such a great performance in that movie, and I would love to see a horror movie get more love at these award shows.
It could also be like you've been in this industry for however fucking long, like 40 years now at this point. So it could just be like the same thing they did with Jamie Lee Curtis with Everything All at Once. It's like, okay, you've been in the industry. This is like a thank you for your service sort of deal instead of
sure. I think it's interesting. I think the biggest thing going against Demi Moore, because I think she has the performance, I think she has the for lack of a better word, she has the substance to her campaign. Like, she has the comeback story. I think it is the movie itself. Not that the movie's not good, but
it's like a horror style movie. That's why it wouldn't.
Yeah, I think on a grander scale, the Academy itself is opening up more to performances, or opening up more to horror movies, excuse me. But I do wonder if maybe that, like, we're not quite there yet where, like, someone could win. Like, now they can get nominated, but can they win? The other element of it is also the performance is a split between her and Margaret Qualley. And I wonder if that's going to affect people's perception of it, because she is only one half, technically, of the character. I know that's not technically equative to the way the movie does it, but, like, there is a lot of the movie that is Margaret Qualley. There's a lot of the movie that is her. I wonder if that will affect it in certain people's minds as to if she should win. I don't think it should, but I'm just trying to get in the heads of other. Whereas like Mikey Madison is Honora, and she is the entirety of that film. And I think so. I think if it's not Demi Moore, I think it is going to be Mikey Madison. I don't think Gascon or Arrivo win.
Yeah, I think those are the two.
And just to address it, I don't think it's worth like having a full conversation about it, but I did see it in the comments here. Comparing Cynthia to Margot Robbie, blatantly, no. People walked out of Wicked with Cynthia Erivo being a major talking point for the film, whereas while Margot Robbie's good in Barbie, I don't think anyone walked out explicitly talking about how great her performance was. I think the movie's writing failed her because they made Ken a way more interesting character, and Gosling matched it with his performance. And the Oscar moment in the movie went to America Ferrera, not Margot Robbie, which is why I think America Ferrera got nominated and not Robbie. I think Robbie was just failed by the film. She was good, and I said that when I saw it. She's good, but she wasn't great. And when she started getting awards like contentions, I was kind of shocked personally. And then when the nominations came out in the day and she wasn't nominated, I wasn't shocked because I never thought she should have been. I think the two who were better than her got it personally, whereas Erivo is good enough. And I don't think anyone on the outskirts has a good enough campaign to outget her.
I was going to ask this as like a general question. So do you think it's more likely for someone to get nominated for a comic book movie or for a horror movie? Because we've kind of seen in the last couple of years that they've kind of become more open to both, but they're not necessarily willing to give the win. Like, did Jordan Peele didn't win for Get Out, right? Daniel Kaluuya, I think, was nominated, but I don't think he won for that.
Well, Peele won for screenplay.
The screenplay one, yeah.
Screenplay, okay, right, yeah, he won for screenplay.
He did win, but you're right. Kaluuya was nominated but didn't win. Angela Bassett. I mean,
Angela
in terms
Bassett
of
for Black
comics,
Panther. Was Toni Collette nominated for?
Nope.
No, Hereditary.
He should have been.
Okay.
No, I mean, Demi would really be the first one to get nominated of all these horror films in the last 10 years, right? I can't think of another one who broke through.
Last 10 years? Last 10 years, I haven't been a fan of most of the horror movies that have come out, too. Like, I've always felt.
Fair enough.
You know how it is. Like, a lot of these slasher ones.
The closest thing to horror that has done well at the Oscars is Parasite.
Oh, well, Get Out, too, in a sense, yeah. But Parasite
Get Out. But what was it? Allison Williams? She wasn't nominated.
So, right. Yeah, no, fair enough. Okay.
So yeah, it'll be interesting. If Demi wins, I think this is a big statement win for, because that's the other thing, right? Like, I think in comic books as well, like, we've had more nominations in recent years for comic book films, but outside of a Joker performance, I don't know if anyone's actually won. So
no,
if Demi wins, it'll be a huge statement.
And also the Joker performances both have been in the last 15 or so years, right? Like, it was Heath Ledger in 2008, 9.
Yeah.
And then Joaquin Phoenix. Although Angela Bassett should have won. And then, but horror as well. Like, there's been horror performances that have won in the past. Like, what's his name? Anthony Hopkins in Silence of the Lambs, I believe, won that year. I'm sure that someone from one of the Hitchcock horror films won in the years that they came out. Someone would have to fact check me. Did anyone win from The Shining? Did Jack Nicholson win for The Shining?
I don't believe so. I can search that. That'll be quicker than trying to search Hitchcock's filmography.
Yeah, we'll let Diaz take care of Hitchcock's filmography. He's been our fact checker tonight.
Let's see. No. Okay, no. So The Shining received Razzie nominations, not Oscar nominations.
What the fuck? Okay.
That is wild.
Yeah.
That is insane. That's a bigger conspiracy than anything else I've come up with today. Okay. All right.
Yeah,
so
it received a worst director nomination, and it received a worst actress nomination, which they rescinded.
Jesus. All right. So okay. So either way, it's not likely that they win or get nominated, but we'll see. Like the Oscars are who knows with how they do things anymore.
Yeah, the closest that The Shining came to the Academy Awards is it was nominated for the Saturn Awards, which is ran by the Academy of Science Fiction, Fantasy, and Horror, which is a non-profit branch of the Academy that focuses on other
On
films.
like genre films. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Which, can we just say, talk about, like, people like to talk about how, like, the animated film category exists, that the Oscars don't have to recognize animated films. There's literally an award show for sci-fi and horror films. Like, this is why it's taken so long.
Yeah.
All right. With that said, though, we'll go ahead and jump into Best Actor. Jacob, back down to you. What do you got?
Yeah, this one. I think this one is a little bit more wide open. Personally, I have Adrian Brody, Ray Fiennes, Timothy Chalamet, and then these last two spots I think are between. I think they could be up between 5 people. So I have Daniel Craig and Coleman Domingo, but I think Sebastian Stan, Hugh Grant, and Jesse Eisenberg have an outside chance. I think the biggest thing that's stopping me from putting Sebastian Stan in there is he does have those 2 performances to choose from, and I think that might hurt him. Like the votes might get split. So I think that's the one thing hurting his chances. But I wouldn't be surprised to see one of them make it in.
Medea or Tato?
Mine is the exact same list as Jacob's, honestly. Like, I think Coleman Domingo, Daniel Craig, Timothy Chalamet, Adrian Brody, and I actually put Jesse Eisenberg ahead because I've heard really good things about both him and Kieran. So I feel like Kieran getting that much love, I feel like Jesse Eisenberg kind of get brought up. But Ray Fiennes also was really good, but I feel like it's one of those things with Ray Fiennes, like, oh, yeah, he was good again in another really good movie. Do we nominate him or do we give someone else a shot this time?
Tato?
Alrighty. I will go with Sebastian Stan for The Apprentice, Sebastian Stan for A Different Man, Sebastian Stan for What If Season 3.
Sebastian Stan for Thunderbolts.
Not controversial at all.
I'll take Adrian Brody, Ray Fiennes. I think those 2 are stone cold locks, as close as it gets. Coleman Domingo, Chalamet also probably in it for sure. And then I will take Daniel Craig as my 5th.
So we all have essentially almost the same list.
And you guys are pretty much on track here. So using the same precursors the whole show, Adrian Brody, Timothy Chalamet, Coleman Domingo, and Ray Fiennes are all 5 for 5. So I would say those are 4 are getting in. In terms of what's left, Daniel Craig is 3 for 5 with the SAG nomination. Hugh Grant is 3 for 5 with the BAFTA nomination. Jesse Eisenberg is 2 for 5. Glenn Powell is 2 for 5. And Sebastian Stan is 2 for 5 with a BAFTA nomination for The Apprentice. It's also worth noting Stan was nominated for both roles at the Golden Globes. He was also nominated for A Different Man, since one fell under drama and one fell under comedy.
Which one was the drama?
The Apprentice.
Okay.
Was it though?
That's what they said.
Same way that Heretic is a comedy or a
My
musical.
favorite musical, The Martian. Or
favorite comedy or musical, The Martian.
Because everyone loves all the jokes in that one.
Hey, that Donna Summer had a great song in The Martian. So I would say those 4 at the top are a lock. Brody, Chalamet, Domingo, Fiennes. I don't see anyone beating those guys. The easy answer is probably Daniel Craig, but honestly, Hugh Grant's just more interesting, and Jesse Eisenberg is who I would actually give it to if we're talking performances, like just personal taste. I'd give it to Eisenberg, but Craig
honestly, low key, Timothy Chalamet doesn't get nominated because he's like 21, right? Like he's got time.
That fucking charming son of a bitch.
Yeah, fuck this guy. No, like let's give it to someone who've been around the block and like.
He's 29.
Yeah, he's like pushing 30.
Yeah, screw him. He's got time. let's get the older guys in there before, like, they pass out from just old age, and then let's get them their
Hey man,
nominations.
I don't know. Coleman Domingo is breakdancing in Sing Sing. I think he's got
Coleman
some
Domingo
content.
could be 40 for the rest of his life, and I wouldn't care. Like he's solid.
Yeah. Honestly, though, if anyone goes and watches the Actors on Actors interview, Kieran Culkin and Coleman Domingo, Kieran Culkin's
I saw the
reaction to
clip.
learning how old Coleman Domingo is
It's
hilarious.
so funny. It's like, you don't moisturize? Like, no, black don't crack. I'm like, this is amazing. I love this guy.
But yeah, I don't know. I'd probably predict Craig because it's the safest pick. But I do legitimately think that Grant or Eisenberg could get in there. I agree with the sentiment that a lot of people are giving that Sebastian Stan did give 2 great performances, but the problem is when you have 2 performances, it usually goes one way or the other, which is people lobby behind one of the performances and you're guaranteed a nomination, or it splits the vote.
Yeah.
And you don't get in.
The only time that I can remember that it didn't affect it was with Jamie Foxx, but that was also a best main actor and then best supporting actor. So it wasn't like they were fighting each other for the votes.
Right. It's the performances are pushing it upward.
Yeah.
And the problem is with Sebastian, I don't see Hollywood wanting to nominate Donald Trump in any way for an Academy Award, even if it's a performance that is not flattering. I just don't see them wanting to put his name out there right now. And I just don't think A Different Man is going to be watched enough to get in. Like, A24 didn't campaign it at all. The fact that it even is in the awards conversation, I think is simply because people wanted to give Sebastian Stan credit and they went looking for an alternative. And they found it in A Different Man.
I'm changing my mind. The guy who's going to win Best Actor is the monkey that played Robbie Williams.
But
honestly,
so Robbie Williams.
I'm genuinely excited to watch that movie. I don't think it is actually Robbie Williams. I think they have like a guy who's
No. So yeah, Robbie does the voice, and they had a kid do the mocap.
Oh, that's what it is. Okay, fair enough. Honestly, I hope Robbie Williams gets some love at the Oscars because, God damn it, America needs to know who he is. I asked this in the group chat, like with a few of us. I was like, "You guys don't know who Robbie Williams is?" Because I grew up in England, so I grew up with his music. And then I think Brian, the guy who most likely is of the age range to know who he is like, I think I've only heard one of his songs. I was blown away. I didn't realize that nobody in America knew who this guy was.
He wasn't. So I did the research recently when talking with someone. Robbie Williams is a solo singer, never charted in America. And if you look at the singles charting for Take That, they're technically a one-hit wonder.
Really? Holy shit. That's he's got like, I mean, you can look at his discography and like his awards and everything in recognition. He's been recognized here. Like he has 2 Grammy wins, I think. Something like that. But
I've said since the beginning, because like obviously my parents are Irish. I'm tapped into like Irish British culture. I knew who he was when I saw the trailer. Like I knew who he was, but I also know he's not popular in America. And like I think the genesis of it was to shout out someone we all know, shout out Malcolm. He put up a post about it on Facebook. And he even referenced like Americans would know one of his songs. He sang the cover of Beyond the Sea in the Finding Nemo credits. And I guarantee you no one knows who sang the credit song of Finding Nemo. Like I get what you mean. Like most of us have seen the movie. We have heard him sing, but we wouldn't have known who did it. He just wasn't a success.
Yeah, here's where Robbie Williams came into my world and where most people would probably know him from. It's him and Queen. He was with Queen briefly, and he is the one on A Knight's Tale.
Yes, he is. Yeah, he is.
Yeah.
I don't
So
know.
that's
Ever
how
since Malcolm
I've known the
put that
name.
Facebook post up, I've been like shocked.
Yeah, that was.
I
I
think it
feel
was.
like that's the genesis of.
I think it was literally that day. I was
conversation in
like,
the
"Hang on,
community.
these guys got to know who he is."
No, but I had said from the jump with Better Man, at least in America, I think they should have marketed that movie as just a musical about a pop star who's a monkey. I think if you completely if you go and check like social media, they've started running trailers that are leaving the Robbie Williams voiceover out. Like they're ignoring the fact that it's a biopic because
Okay.
Americans reacted so weirdly to not knowing who this guy was that's getting a biopic that I think it's doomed the film financially in America. I think if they had just sold this as this grand bombastic musical about a pop star monkey directed by the guy who did The Greatest Showman, which was a huge hit here in America, they would have had much better chances at succeeding. I don't know why they promoted it as a biopic in a place where he's not known.
I mean, to be fair, nobody outside of America really listens to country music either. So when Walk the Line came out in what 2004, 2005,
Oh,
or
I
whatever,
believe it.
like
Johnny
Johnny
Cash?
Cash is like, sure, he's like a name that people might have heard overseas, but it's not the same effort, like the same impact that it has here. Same with if I went to England and said, "Oh, do you guys listen to Tim McGraw?" They're gonna think I'm talking about some podcaster.
Exactly. No, I agree with you. The only difference is Americans have an Amerocentric view on what popularity is. So if
No,
we don't
really?
know it,
What?
Are you
if
sure about
Americans
that?
don't know it, I
Pretty
Check Facebook.
sure America's the best at everything. So I don't know what you're talking about.
That's why
You
all
really, you really want to go there, Tato?
world champions.
Well,
I don't.
world
I'm at.
champ.
I'm at the point. I'm at the point now where I don't even want to have that discussion with people. I just want to play. If anyone knows the reference I'm making, the clip from the Aaron Sorkin show Newsroom, where
I
Jeff
know the one.
Daniels breaks
It's
down
so
the
off.
American
He goes
statistics.
off. I
good.
love that one.
It's just It's like, yeah, no. I mean, sadly, not much has changed, so it's
To
still
this
pretty
day,
relevant.
and I'm guessing the numbers have changed by 3 to 5 spots, maybe.
Maybe.
But
All right, so you guys ready to move on?
What do we got next? Director, right?
Yep, director and picture, and then we are finished. So let's go on to best director. Jacob, who do you got?
So I have Brady Corbett, I don't know, whatever. For The Brutalist.
I believe it's Corbet.
Okay. Sean Baker, and then I'm bad at pronouncing names, so the Amelia Perez director.
Jacques Audiard.
Yeah, that's how you say it. Edward Berger, and then I have Denis Villeneuve slipping into that fifth spot. I'm not super confident. I think it could also be Coralie Fargi, James Mangold, or John Chu. I think if anything, the Substance will get that fifth directing spot. I'm holding out hope for Denis Villeneuve because he did get snubbed for part one. I got all the technical awards, rightfully so, but I do think it deserves a directing nomination as well.
I feel like my list of who I want to get nominated versus who I think will get nominated are so vastly different. Because I want Denis to get nominated because I think he deserves it. I want John Chu to get nominated because I think he deserves it. I think James Mangold deserves a nomination for Complete Unknown. But I feel like they're all kind of getting left out of a lot of the other ones, so they're not likely to get in. And I'm sure, Aaron, you're going to talk about this in a second.
Mm-hmm.
So the only ones I'm sure of that I want and also would like them to get nominated would be Sean Baker and the Edward Berger for Conclave. And then everyone else is like, I guess the Brutalist director is probably going to get in. They might put Luca in just because for challengers. And then, the Amelia Perez director, Jacques Audiard, however.
So many fun names.
Yeah, just great. But honestly, like this is the thing. Like these directors lists, I feel like it's probably not based on who actually was the best directors this year. This one is just like, yeah, other ones nominated them, so we'll also nominate them. But I feel like Denis should be in there. John Chu should definitely be in there, and I definitely also think that James Mangold deserves a nomination. I don't think he's been nominated very often either, now that I think about it, but he's always been good.
Fact check that while Tato goes.
Yeah, I will take Corbet, Baker, Fredberger, Coralie Ferger, and Jacques Audiard.
To be fair, if anyone's listening and doesn't know who we're talking about, we're not having strokes. We're actually trying our best to actually pronounce these names.
Except when I said Fredberger, that one was a bit.
That one we'll give you a pass on. It's all good.
Yeah, that is very fair. Okay, so to answer your question, as far as I can see, it does not look like James Mangold has ever been nominated for Best Director.
Which is honestly a travesty because he's done phenomenal work continuously.
Dude, when they turn the fucking cross sideways into an X.
That should have gotten him a nomination, honestly, right there. Just that moment.
Shit. Just that moment.
Yeah, no, as far as I can see, he wasn't nominated for Walk the Line. He wasn't nominated for 310. He wasn't nominated for Logan. He wasn't nominated for Ford v Ferrari.
Which was insane. He should have at least been nominated for at least one of them.
He wasn't nominated for Kate and Leopold? What?
Girl Interrupted is his other Oscar one. He wasn't nominated for that either.
Jesus.
I forgot he did that. Yeah, Girl Interrupted, I think, a couple nominations, but I don't think he was nominated either. Yeah.
Damn.
Yeah.
But see, that's what I mean. This is another one. There's another one where I feel like it's an outside chance that maybe they're like, oh, we haven't nominated James Mangold yet, but he's been doing all this great stuff.
And
let's give him a courtesy nomination, even though it's not his best film or his best work, but we'll get him in there just to say that we did it.
And I think you're dead on. So let's get to that. Okay, so I've been doing work to look up the names that I haven't had to look up. I'll start with the easy one. Sean Baker is 5 for 5 for Anora, so I will assume that he will get in.
I'll give you a 5 for 5 of pronunciation on that too. Real good job.
Again, I have done research on these names. I am going to do my best to say them correctly. I'm also not French, and half of these are French, so I'm probably wrong. Okay, so Amelia Perez's Jacques Audiard is 5 for 5 as well, so I would imagine he'll get in. Brady Corbett's name is French, so normally it is pronounced Brady Corbet, but he himself says Corbett. So that is how it's said. That is where the confusion comes from. He's also 5 for 5. So I would imagine he would get in. Edward Berger, whose name I learned to say 2 years ago when he was nominated for All Quiet on the Western Front, not Berger. Edward Berger is 4 for 5, so I think he has a great chance at getting in. And Coralie, okay, so it's French. So the way they say it, it just sounds like a snot bubble, like Farger. So I believe if you like Americanize it, it would be Coralie Farger or Coralie Farge, whatever you feel more comfortable saying. Because again, we don't have that like French enunciation in the English language. She is also 4 for 5. I would say that pretty much sets it as those are the 5. Audiard, Baker, Corbett, Berger, and Farge. If anyone else were to get in, Denis Villeneuve has a great chance as he is 3 for 5, and he did pick up the BAFTA nom, which means a large sect of the voting body do like his work. John Chu is 2 for 5, so he could sneak in. And then James Mangold is 1 for 5, but that 1 is the DGA. So the Directors Guild that will have a big say in the voting for the Academy voted him in where no one else did. And I think it's 100% a legacy, you've never received this honor, so we're going to give it to you type of nomination. Unfortunately, if he does get that nomination here, I think it is going to come at the expense of Coralie Farge, because Berger, Corbett, Baker, and Audiard were all nominated at the DGA, and she was not. So I think it would be a repeat of that situation. She would be booted out, and he would get in. I'm going to predict that she will make it over him, though. But don't be shocked if on Oscar morning we find out that he's there. As for the question from the chat, I know that John Chu was brought up in connection to Wicked. Unfortunately, despite the fact that the movie is heavily nominated in many other categories, I don't think he'll get in. If anything, I think he will get in for part 2, as long as next year's not some super wickedly strong year. I think that he has a great chance at getting in. And no, that pun was not intended.
Dude, just intend your puns. Own them. Go for it.
So yeah. So I would say those 5 are pretty relatively set. Any other thoughts? Or are we ready to move on?
I hope Mangold gets nominated, but yeah, you're right. It'll probably be I'm not even gonna try the substance director.
I'll probably end up switching out Villeneuve for the substance director at the last second.
Do you guys think? Actually, hang on. This is a thing. So last year there was a big stink. Not last year. 2 years ago. When did Dune Part 1 come out?
2021.
2021. So 4 years ago. Jesus. So there was the big thing about how did Denis not get nominated, and there was like a whole thing about it. Do you think too much time has passed in between movies that people have forgotten that there was that whole thing, or do you think the voting body will be like, well, we didn't nominate for Part 1, and he should have probably should have won. So let's just give him a nomination and then see what people vote on.
So I think it's interesting. 2021 with Dune, I think that the problem with Dune is, at least Dune Part 1, it's a film that, at least to me, and the way that it read to the Academy, it was a film that really succeeded in below the line work. Like, the technicals of it were excellent, but when it came to the screenplay, the acting, while it was all good, it didn't seem to be good enough to break through at the Academy in any way, shape, or form.
It wasn't a standout monologue by anyone. Yeah, fair.
Exactly. And so I think that that's kind of what led him to not get there. I think he had the technicals of it all down, but it was the other part of it that didn't come through compared to some of the others who did get nominated that year. If I'm being honest, I think it's one of two things. I think it's the fact that the movie did come out. I mean, by the time the Academy Awards airs, it'll be a year old.
No.
Warner Brothers did not continue to market the film and keep it in people's minds the way that, say, A24 did with Everything Everywhere All at Once, where it was in theaters for ages and then they re-released it. And Warner Brothers didn't do that with Dune because they weren't counting on Dune being their Oscar film. They were counting on Joker doing it, which really worked out. Talk about putting your eggs in one basket. And so I just think, unfortunately, the movie kind of slipped people's minds in a sense, which is insane to think about because it's Dune. But like, if you're in the industry, right, you have to imagine the average person in the industry probably watches a solid handful of movies throughout the year that aren't their work or their friends' work. And then Oscar season comes and they are watching whatever they are being told is the best to then formulate their opinion on what is the best of the best. And Dune just hasn't been campaigned enough. It hasn't been kept in the conversation. Warner's not really done anything to support the movie.
Fair.
And the other thing is, because we know there is a third film coming and there's been rumblings of a fourth film even happening. Now, I don't know if Denis would return for that, but there is rumblings of a fourth film happening. I do think the Academy is kind of letting it just go because, well, we can come back to it.
Okay, fair.
Which is shitty, but it wouldn't be the first time that it's happened. So I do think, I do think it would be affected by that. And part of me wonders if Wicked will fall into the same trap. Like, I think people were shocked by how good Wicked was, and I think that's why it'll overperform in nominations. But I wonder if it'll underperform in wins because they know there's another one coming next year.
Yeah.
All right, so then, boys, let's cap this off. Best Picture. What do we think, Jacob?
Yeah, so I think these first 8 are locks, and then I think there's a 4 that I think could contend for those final 2 spots. So the 8 that I think are locks are the Brutalist, Honora, Conclave, Wicked, Dune Part 2, A Complete Unknown, The Substance, and Amelia Perez. And then the 4 I think that are fighting for those final 2 spots are Sing Sing, A Real Pain, Nickel Boys, and September 5. I do have Sing Sing and A Real Pain in the final 2 spots, though.
Okay. All right. Tato, Madi, any thoughts?
I agree with the 8 locks. I feel like it is going to be those 8. I would probably say that Sing Sing or the September 5 movie might get a shot in as some of my outside looking in. It's up to 10 nominations, correct?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, so hang on. So
And it is guaranteed to be 10. They're not doing the fluctuating thing anymore.
Oh, they're not doing that anymore? Okay.
No.
It shows how much I've been paying attention. So Complete Unknown, Real Pain, Honora, Conclave, Dune, Wicked, Substance, Amelia Perez. Did I say Brutalist already?
No.
I don't believe so, no.
Brutalist, and then I'll say September 5 or actually guess this September 5 or Jesus Christ. Or Sing Sing being the last one.
Okay.
My outside looking in are going to be Real Pain and September 5. Bottom to top, making it in Sing Sing, The Substance, Nickel Boys, Wicked, Dune Part 2, Amelia Perez, Complete Unknown, Honora, Conclave, Brutalist.
All right. So to put this together, in terms of how I kind of listed it out, I used 8 different precursors for this. So I used obviously the Golden Globes, the Critics' Choice, and the Astras, as I've used the entire show. The PGA, obviously, because it's equative to Best Picture. I included if the film was nominated at the Directors Guild, because Best Director would obviously equate to Best Picture for them. If a film got Best Ensemble at SAG, that's their equivalent of Best Picture, so I included that. I excluded the Writers Guild because so many were deemed ineligible that it's kind of hard to judge using that. So I included the BAFTAs, and then of the critic circles, the one that I think people put the most stake in because of who's a part of it is the National Board of Review. So if a film made that list, I included it as well. So of the 8 precursors that I used to look at what's in the discussion, Honora and Conclave were the only 2 that made all 8. So I would say that those 2 are in. I also would say that those 2 are probably frontrunners. A Complete Unknown made 7 of 8, so I would call that a lock. Amelia Perez made 7 of 8. I would call that a lock. The Brutalist made 6 of 8. I would still say that's a lock. And Wicked made 6 of 8. I would say that's a lock. After that, I do think it's up in the air. So I would say there are 6 of them that are locked. I think it's going to be Honora, Conclave, A Complete Unknown, Amelia Perez, The Brutalist, and Wicked. Of the ones that are left, if I'm just going off of how many of these precursors they picked up, Dune got 4 of 8, but one of them was the PGA. A Real Pain got 4 of 8, but one of them was the PGA. The Substance got 4 of 8, with one of them being the PGA. And Sing Sing got 3 of 8, with its highest honor being the National Board of Review. Challengers got 2 of 8. Nickel Boys got 2 of 8. And September 5 got 2 of 8. But September 5 also got the PGA, which the other 2 that got 2 of 8 did not get. So I think of those 3 at the bottom, September 5 has a better chance of being a spoiler.
Does PGA also do 10 films as well?
Yes.
Yeah?
Mhm.
Okay.
Yes, and the National Board of Review does 11 because they name a Best Picture and then they do 10 more. So,
Okay, gotcha.
so yeah, so September 5 made it for the PGA. So here's where I come back to the movie that was brought up earlier, which is Juror Number 2. Now, this is an absolute wacky prediction that was thrown into this article. This is not Steadfast to win. But apparently, when speaking to Academy voters, a decent majority of people who were spoken to on the day actually included Juror Number 2 on the list somewhere near the bottom,
Okay.
with the perception of it being that it's basically the industry were aware of what happened with the movie. They were aware of the fact that the film, which was Eastwood's possibly final film, kind of got buried. And in an industry that's already very angry at David Zaslav and Warner Brothers for the way that he's been running that studio, a lot of people actually went out and watched the movie to support Eastwood in this weird thing that happened. And a lot of people really liked the movie. And so a number of people actually included it on their list of 10 and openly admitted that they included it on their list of 10. So much so that, people who analyze these numbers have deemed it not completely crazy to see it eke out a spot on the list. Enough to say it could, hell no, not a chance in hell. But it's got enough support that it could find its way onto a 10 Best Picture list. Which, if it does, that would make history because it would be the first film since 1943 to pull off a Best Picture nomination
And
with
nothing else.
really no other nominations at the show because no one was talking about nominating it elsewhere. Nick Holt, Toni Collette, none of the performances were talked about. Just simply the fact that the movie was good, had support, and a lot of people voted for it in a list of 10. It could find its way in.
That's crazy.
Which would be insane, and I'm not predicting it. But it's worth putting that out there because if enough people are saying it that it's worth bringing up, then that must mean enough people are saying it.
Honestly, I low-key hope it does get in now. Like, it does have that kind of little engine that could sort of storyline.
And it's worth noting that of all the precursors, Juror Number 2 did actually make one of the precursors. It was on the National Board of Review's list of 10 films.
Okay.
So it's not like it had nothing going into this. It was on someone's list that was being looked at by Hollywood. But because it was like the first list out of the gate and then it got no other nominations, it's kind of been eliminated in terms of discussion for critics. But Hollywood is aware of the film and they like the movie.
Jacob, you said you really liked it too, right?
I did. I really enjoyed it.
It was in my top 10 for last year.
Taylor, have you seen it?
No.
No. Okay.
And for anyone who is, I know at the very least in America, I don't know internationally how the streaming would work, but if you are in America, it is on Max. So you can go watch it. It's readily available. I would imagine if you have Max in your country, it's on there too, since it is a Warner film. They have no reason to bury it that hard.
Okay, so here's my question about it then. So we went over the Best Actor and all the other ones.
Mm-hmm.
Would you, based on what you think of this movie, would you consider Nicholas Hoult to be someone who should be considered for Best Actor? And then you said Toni Collette was also in it. Would you put her as someone who should be in consideration for probably Best Supporting Actress, I'm assuming?
Yes. If we're talking just off the movie's quality alone, I would say yes. If we're talking about like how Hollywood works,
they're not going to get it.
No.
Okay.
I think the only reason it even has a chance at that random Best Picture nom is because there's 10.
Fair.
Like, because if we're being honest, right, and one of the things over the years that if you're like an Oscars person online, there's sort of this anger that has developed because people who follow the Oscars online take the Oscars more seriously than I think people in the industry do. Like in the industry, it is kind of this fun thing they all get to do at the end of the year. And to other people, it's much more serious. And like when there's 10 nominees, like why not fuck around and put Juror Number 2 on there? Because if you have 5 films that are contending in your mind for that spot. Why not put the one that could use the support and use like the name recognition?
Right.
So I don't know. It's interesting.
Was there anything on there like the other thing I'm just thinking about? We haven't nominated this one at all. But,
by the way, I just want to my bad. I just want to throw out there because you brought up Nicholas Hoult. Funny enough, I actually think Nicholas Hoult was good enough this year in a movie that he should have been nominated, but it's not juror number 2. There's a little movie he was in called The Order.
I've heard about this one. Yeah.
Yeah, it was directed by Justin Kurzel, who unfortunately is best known for directing Assassin's Creed. But when he's not making that, he's making great small films.
Nice.
And he's excellent in the movie, playing a radicalized like Southern racist.
Yeah.
He's excellent in the movie, and the movie itself at one point was owned by A24 and was going to be a film they campaigned for the Oscars, and then they picked up The Brutalist and they dropped it completely from distribution, so a smaller company picked it up and distributed it. So it is a shame, but if there's anyone out there who doubts Nicholas Holt's ability to play Lex Luthor, go watch him play a raging racist, and I promise you it'll translate, because he's excellent.
I agree. I've heard nothing but good things, but he's had like 3 movies this year that have all been
because he's in Nosferatu,
right? Which I've heard is also really good, but it's a horror movie.
Hey, some of us were banging the table for Nick Hoult as Lex Luthor in this chat, if I recall correctly.
Hey, and to address the question in the comments, Nosferatu, no chance.
Yeah, no.
Unfortunately,
we kind of
the Academy. The Academy is only so accepting to horror movies at this point, and I think the substance has eaten up all of the ability to nominate a horror film. Nosferatu just came out too late. Like releasing on Christmas, not really screening much ahead of time, not playing to the Academy's sentiments in terms of like screenings and campaigning and stuff like that. I think it is a good chance at getting technical nominations, but Best Picture, no.
I was going to ask about this. The Saturday Night Live movie, or it's just called Saturday Night, right?
Yes.
That one I enjoyed a lot too. It was one of the 15 movies I saw this year, but not to brag or anything, guys. But that one I was like, it's a really good film, but it doesn't. It's again the same thing. It's so much of an ensemble thing that it doesn't have anyone having one standout performance or anything like that would put it into this contention. But is that on any of those lists as well, or like with the National Review Board or anything like that?
No. The only places where it came up strong were, I believe, the Golden Globes. Gabriel LaBelle got nominated for Lorne Michaels, and then it got a screenplay nom. Actually, I think it might have got a screenplay nom for the WGA as well. But again, the WGA had all the weird stuff.
It probably whatever award shows do the best cast ensemble, it will probably get a bunch of love there.
I was just about to say the Critics' Choice. They nominated it for acting ensemble and best comedy.
Okay, fair play.
Yeah, so I sorry, just remembered that and figured maybe I'd ask.
Yeah, I agree with you. I also thought it was really, really good. I just think it was Saturday night. It seemed, and also it wasn't completely beloved. I think there were just enough people who weren't into it that it would have had a harder time getting in.
Interesting. Okay.
I loved it though.
Yeah.
But yeah. So, anybody have any final thoughts, or we want to wrap this up?
I'm Ginsky.
All right. I'm not going to do a proper outro because I didn't do a proper intro to this bitch, and I want to get this video done under 2 hours. So have a great night, everybody.
Brilliant.